Science. The supernatural. Biblical prophecy. Global events that threaten to rattle the very foundation of human existence. Critical examination of the most important issues facing today's modern world. Welcome to the Sharpening Report.
Welcome Sara Brown to the Sharpening Report once again. It's been almost close to 2 years now when you were on with Josh Peck. I want to tell you, I enjoyed that so much because I have never heard anybody talk about Bigfoot in that way because I always, well, let's just say I had my suspicions about the supernatural nature of the Bigfoot. But for people who aren't familiar with you, who've never heard of you before, um, why don't you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sara Brown. I live on the Chehalis Indian Reservation in Washington State. And Bigfoot wasn't something I set out to do. Like you say, I kind of stumbled into
Yeah.
the subject, and I've heard him ever since. So I don't actively search for them anymore. I don't document anymore. I don't do anything like that, but they do live in close proximity, so we do hear them, especially this time of year. This is the busiest time of year for activity. Usually starts around September. So
So
yeah.
for those who really didn't catch it, you have Bigfoot. What's the plural of Bigfoot? I always wanted to know anyway. Big feet? Bigfoots? But
Some people say Bigfoot, some say Big V. I just say Bigfoot or
yeah,
Sasquatch.
you have Bigfoot as your neighbor. I
Yeah,
mean,
you could say that, but I think that a lot of people do. They just don't
yeah.
know it.
And I just would think because of the long standing I don't know, just a presumption of mine because of some of the more spiritual uh I don't know, background of the area and stuff like that. I'm presuming that they would be kind of like drawn to the area, or 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 would it be more appropriate to say that maybe people are encroaching on their territory? Which do you think is the case?
Oh, well, that's another story in itself. I think I know why they're around reservations, but um, I'm not certain, and I don't know that I'll ever be certain. I
Right.
have speculation on it, but and I'm not even certain of what they are. I know what they're not. I know that they have the ability to do things that we can't really understand or explain, but
Like what? Can you give us an example of the kind of things you're talking about? Like
uh,
supernatural type of stuff, right?
yeah, they, from personal experience, I've seen glowing eyes that had no form, no no body, just glowing eyes.
Whoa. You mean
And then
like
and
a
that's
their
pretty
body is
common.
like their body is invisible, or like a
Yeah,
predator? If
like
you've
you
ever seen one
just,
of those predator movies and they're sort of camouflaged in a freaky way.
oh, yeah, I've heard people say that before, that they seemed like liquid. But I don't, I've never seen that. I've
Oh,
only seen either like
literally just the eyes.
just, but glowing. Like a lot of people say, well, there has to be some form of light that they're reflecting off of.
Yeah.
No, it's not a reflection. You can, there's a big difference between something that's emitting its own light, its own energy source, or a reflection. Um, and these have the ability to be their own light, even when it's a new moon and it's completely dark out. I've seen red eyes before, and that one actually had a figure to it.
But again, the glowing eyes, but red.
Like red lights,
Yeah.
red LED
So
lights.
you've seen variations of different colors with some of them, with their eyes, is what you're hinting at.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've seen red, and then I've only seen red twice. Yeah, I think twice. But I've seen white countless times. Looks like it looks like a star, you know, two stars down, and sometimes you'll see, like this darting behind trees, eyes
Yeah.
doing this. Um,
Well, that would
and then I've
absolutely,
seen like a amber color,
yeah. That something like that would be kind of
but
hard to mistake out in the middle of the woods.
oh, for sure. And the red eyes was the creepiest because we went outside and I actually recorded one of them howling from down the street, and the dogs were going absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And we went outside, and I was staring down the street like this, and then right here, not quite in my peripheral, a little bit more towards center, I saw just this red light over here. And as soon as I looked at it, I mean, both eyes were just staring right at me, high, high up to close to 8 feet maybe. And as soon as I looked at it, he walked off. Glowing red eyes. It was weird. And there's a presence sometimes. A lot of times, you can feel a heaviness, a suppression, you know, an oppression in the air.
Yeah.
Just a thickness. Um, we've seen weird things, very weird things with them. They have the ability to be there and then not be there. The farmer here, there's a cattle farmer that rents out a lot of the tribe's property for his cows, and he's done it forever. Great guy. His name's Francisco. Everyone around the tribe knows him. I had talked to him before about it, and brought it up to him, and he a lot of people don't like talking about them. And the Navajo say that there's a season a time and a season for everything, and sometimes they don't talk about stuff during certain times.
Yeah.
And I found that that's kind of how it is everywhere, you know, with various tribes. They're on, you know, they talk about certain things at certain times, and some of them don't like talking about the creature at
Yeah.
all.
Now, I've
And
heard that
Prince,
especially too about the skinwalker or skinwalkers that
oh
you
yeah,
don't bring that up or people are liable to walk away from you.
yeah, and the same with the Wendigo, which is a Pueblo Indian thing. I
Yeah.
think that it's the same creature though.
Oh
I
my
think.
goodness, wow, you're startling me here because I've said that, and you're the very first person I've heard outside of myself to make that connection. I've seen this thing like sort of crouched over on all fours, running past people at camp, camping out or something, and like behind them, it's caught running behind them, and they just like what you say. Now it could look like a reflection, but to me it looked like glowing eyes because they seem to be glowing before they even turn towards the camera. But I digress. Go ahead. I just wanted to say I agree with you.
See, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing is uh, reflective eyes. Like I saw a cougar one time,
Yeah.
and if I went like this with my flashlight, they change. They're not just bright and then not bright.
Yeah.
They change, you know, as you move your,
Sometimes
as the
change
light
color
source
too.
moves.
Sometimes they'll shift from sort of blue to red to
Oh yeah, yeah, like the pupil and then
yeah.
the iris, yeah. But this doesn't do that. This didn't do that. This is different.
Yeah.
And then the one that we picked up on thermal video, uh, that was the first image of, no, that was a second image of one that we got. And they tap a lot on trees here.
Yeah. Yeah.
They tap at us a lot. Tap, 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 tap. I don't know why. Um,
So the tapping, when you hear that, it's generally directed towards you. They don't tap to each other that much. You don't hear that when they're off to themselves. Are
well,
they
the
more?
reason I say that they would do it at us is because for um, about maybe 2.5 years, I'd say 2 to 2.5 years, I
Yeah.
put audio out all night.
Mm.
And we wouldn't pick it up on audio unless someone was outside, you know? And so that's why I say it was at
Mm.
us. And
So
a
you
lot of times,
never
like
hear
that
them do
video
that
I
to each
sent
other.
you, you can hear the tapping.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I heard metal banging on one. I mean,
Yeah.
sounded like a gong, a muted gong or something.
Yeah. They do that a lot too. That's more when they're in the red eye kind of mood, you know? That was about a week and a half ago. We had, I would say, 5 or 6 days that were like that. Very heavy. Um, and they would do that a lot. But the tapping is pretty weird. And there's been some times where I'd go, go for a walk and go down into the, valley by myself, and I could hear a few of them tapping from various sides, and that can get uncomfortable because you don't know how many there are, what they're doing. But
So basically, you don't you don't let that stop you from living and enjoying life, but you're not after Bigfoot anymore. Like you were obsessed at one time when you first
I
said
was
it.
completely obsessed.
Yeah, and a lot of hunters are. You can just hear it in their voice. And they
Yes.
don't have a shred of evidence, but they've come so close and they're just you know all gung ho. And I
Yeah.
can I can understand. I can understand. They probably don't realize some of the things you've realized.
Yep. And unfortunately, they don't want to give up their baby, you know? That's the unfortunate part. And I've been there, I get it, but I can't tell you how many messages I got when I for when I talked to Josh, so many messages from people saying, hey, I wanted to thank you for, talking about this. And if I ever experience anything like that, I'll quit too. And it's just like, you're there's no reason for someone to make stuff up like this. And there's tens of thousands of people that have seen these things, every wooded area except for Central Park, New York, and Hawaii has had sightings. You've got full tribes of people that have seen them. You've got every single ancient culture has a Bigfoot-like creature.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, if you don't think there's something by now, then you probably never will, because it's just that you don't need a body necessarily to conclude, in your own mind, okay, well, logically there has to be something. Why would all these people forever, why would there be books about these things? And it's just, and then to take it a step further, the people that go searching for these things, sometimes every weekend, if they don't believe that there's something to these creatures by now, then I don't think they will unless something crazy does happen, or unless they really take a step back and are willing to let go of it. If you know what I mean, like if they allow logic to help guide.
And why don't you spell it out? Why should they let go of Bigfoot? What convinced you?
Well, I'm not saying that they should let go, because I don't know what someone they could have gone through something. A lot of people have had terrifying encounters with them, absolutely terrifying, and I don't know that someone doesn't need to get rid of that fear somehow by encountering another one. I just don't know. I don't know what someone has gone through, so I'm not saying they need to stop. And I get the obsession. I just am saying that if it's ape, how would it elude thousands of people on the weekend, every weekend? How? It's not possible. Why would we see these things in cartoons as kids, portrayed as something totally different than what they are? I mean, I remember it being in Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Not just that red thing, that big red thing, but an actual Bigfoot. I remember Harry and the Hendersons. I remember, why go through all of the trouble to completely, just flash this creature in front of our faces, since we're kids, if it's not a reality? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And in every culture, as you say, too.
Yeah.
I remember growing up with Rudolph and Shiny New Year or whatever, Merry Christmas or whatever, in the Bumble, the big singing. Well, no, he wasn't singing, but everybody else was. Just they've been around forever.
Yeah.
And in every culture, they display. You hear the same sort of things associated with them, things that do branch off into the what another word for it, things that are just supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
um, things that are not natural to an animal. And when you encounter something that you realize is sentient, is aware of itself, it's more than an animal. And it can do things. I came to these conclusions myself, and just noticing the similarities with other supernatural things that I conclude are Nephilim or what some ancient books call monsters because they were bred with animals rather than humans. From and that kind of goes off into genetics. You were talking to me about some genetic testing comparable with like what L.A. Marzulli did. Uh,
Yeah.
you want to talk about that a
Okay.
little bit?
Yeah. Um, well, the first uh, study done was by a forensics lab headed by a woman named Melba Ketchum. And she got a lot of donations from various Bigfoot researchers and whatnot. And she put a lot into her study, a lot. And they had hundreds of samples, clean samples, and they had full genomes for this study. Not just a drop of blood, but they had a full genomes of this creature. And uh, that woman just was put through the ringer when, as soon as she started sharing some of the results, because she was excited about it,
Yeah.
and that everyone just turned on her. It was just awful.
Wow.
Um,
I remember
I think she
being.
made them, and I'm not going to say mistake because I don't think it's a mistake how someone chooses to word something.
Yeah.
But what did it was she said the DNA, and this was before the results came out. She said the DNA is so different, it's almost angelic. And that really angered people because people had speculated for a long time that they were a supernatural of sorts. And that really bothered people. And then when the results came out, it just got worse for her. But she,
Were
on
the
her
results?
website, she has a breakdown of it. And she even has copies of letters because they sent off clean samples to different labs throughout the United States, including colleges.
Yeah.
College laboratories, top college laboratories. And she has a letter from one of the colleges that says, oh my goodness, what is this? Did you discover a new species? And when she told them what it was, they said, you cannot use our results.
Mm.
And she couldn't get peer tested, to have it put in a journal.
Right.
Um,
Were the results published? Were they made public?
yeah.
Okay. I remember.
She got them published eventually, but that's just a long, messy
Yeah.
story. A long, messy story. But
I remember they were fundraising
science
for
isn't
that.
even science anymore. I mean, it starts science. Something is scientific when you
Right.
start it. When you start researching, it's just
Yeah. Honestly, people in the field who are true researchers are starting to throw up their hands in frustration because they're like, it's a religion now. You
yes.
you kind of have to be a part of that, or either you're in or you're out. If you're not in, then don't expect your career to go anywhere.
Hmm. Yes, I would agree with that, and that's how bigfooting is as well. You either are on the ape side, and you do it till you die. You're out in the woods every weekend, drinking beer, sitting by the fire, hanging out with the guys, and you're diehard ape. I've heard a lot of those guys say, you get a few beers in some of these guys, and then you start hearing the stories, because
I'll
a
bet.
lot of them have witnessed things, but they don't talk about it. Tons of them. And I've heard some of those stories firsthand without beer, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but there's that group, and then there's what the Bigfoot community calls the woo group, where they the Sasquatch talk telepathically to them, and they tell them that they're light bearers. Very familiar term.
Yeah.
And that they're going to tell them knowledge of how to save Mother Earth and there to share this with other people. So there's those two camps. And if you don't sit in one of those religions, then you're out, which is what happened to me, but I was done with it, so
Yeah.
and glad to be, but there wasn't one person that trusted. So many great friends I had, so many great friends. Not one of them trusted me or anyone else that has had an experience and said it publicly. They don't trust enough to pull away from it. So I think it takes
Yeah.
a personal encounter or a personal want to know the truth, a wholehearted want, because it's a hard thing to not want to do. I don't know why. It just is. The big thing for me was that picture, that daytime picture of the one that showed up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I saw that when I was going through SD cards, clearing SD cards. And I saw that just on the thumbnail. And I knew what it was. And he wasn't standing there. And a friend of mine that was with me at the time, we were recreating a thermal video from the night before. Long story short, thermals are very, very hard to gauge exactly where you were standing if you had a thermal, because you're reading heat. It's black and white heat that you're looking at. And the next day in the daylight, it's very difficult to line up. We were trying to do that because something we had filmed the night before. And I took a picture with my handy cam. And for whatever reason, we didn't end up using it to line up. But I saw this months later. And I'll screen share that.
Yeah, sure. That's a great idea. And for whatever else we don't get to screen share right now, if people hang on to the end of our episode, I intend on putting a bunch of stuff on here for them to see. This is out back near you, I guess.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it pretty clear.
Okay, let me zoom. Can you
Oh
see him
yeah.
yet?
Oh yeah. I see it. See it. See the top of a head and some eyes poking out at me.
Yeah, this is his big ugly head. And there's a cleft right there in his brow.
Right, right.
Massive brow ridge, and his eyes are pure black. And the only white you can see, there's no white sclera. The only white you can see is that little glints right there,
Yep.
just a sign of life.
Yeah.
But there's no
Is
white.
it just my perception, or is his eyes kind of set very close together, but really big eyes? They just seem really big to me.
No, very beady and black, and they're droopy. I mean, they're just like little almonds that are
Oh,
shaped
okay.
down like this.
So that's the shadow of his thick brow making it look so
Yeah,
dark.
look at his brow. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this line right here.
Yeah.
And then this. And I don't know if this is sun glints on his head, because I mean, you'll see this was at noon, and you can see that the sun is shining through from over here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's sun glints or if he has gray,
Looks
because
like
the one that
looks like both to me. A little bit of both.
it might be, yeah. The one that John saw during the day was possibly the same one. And he was an auburn color and very mangy looking, like matted.
Yeah.
It might have been him, because this seems to be the same one that's always creeping around. He makes the same sounds. This is the same one that we got on thermal video as well, we think, because this one, I'll show you.
And just as strange as their elusiveness, their being seemingly cornered sometimes, people think, and they go and there's nothing there when they were sure that they cornered them. Besides that, there's this other thing that and you hinted at that as well. They're massive, they're powerful. They could easily, by the look of them, rip a person in half. But
They're
yet,
huge.
like they will come to the edge of your property or something like that, and almost have like a certain regard for us. I don't know if they. I'm not saying that they like us at all. I'm just saying they could do a lot more than they could do a lot if they wanted to.
They
So,
could snap your neck when you walk out the door of your house.
right,
I mean, we could all be dead if they wanted to. So I don't know if there's a restraint on them by choice. I
exactly.
really don't know. I don't understand. They have come in our yard before.
Yeah,
If you show the users that video, they made it clear that they were in our yard because we had put a camera over there, over on their side. But I just don't know. It seems like they stay on the perimeter where he
yeah,
was standing. And I'll show you. This is the other side of the fence. This is a, can you see this barbed wire fence right here?
yes, yes, I see it.
That's one of their favorite spots is right along this fence line. That's where they hang the
Wow,
coyotes. Um, and this is where exactly where he was standing. And then I'll show you.
and I'm gonna. I don't know if you have it, but I'm gonna, at the very least, share that video that you showed where you were revisiting a spot. Excuse me, where you cross a creek, I think. There was a fallen log.
Yeah, yeah, and they were tapping. I was going to get a camera, and they had thrown a chair in our yard or flipped it somehow and then put that planter over those logs, and then they had busted up that tree and put it across the creek.
Almost like they were trying to keep you from crossing.
Yeah, and they do that a lot. They'll do that in paths.
Yeah.
We'll find branches, and sometimes it's silliness because it'll be I mean, I put I on your Facebook page, I had posted a few audio files for your listeners, and one
Yeah.
of them says branch break display, and we hear that a lot. Like one of them will just start cracking up big branches, you know, and sometimes they'll place them across paths. I don't know. To me, that seems like a very ape-like behavior, like trying to show alpha behavior or something. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they put them in shapes. I have no idea. They're just weird. I can tell you that. This is where I was standing in his same spot. I'm right here. This is zoomed. I'm holding a tape measure, and my hand right here reaches 7.5 inches where his head was. This is where the top of his head was.
Gotcha.
So we believe that he's the 7.5 foot creature that we caught on thermal video. I should show you that one. I don't know if your listeners know what a thermal camera is, but if they've ever watched Finding Bigfoot or something, it's a camera that reads heat, infrared waves, and it's takes a lot of time to get used to. It's very, very expensive camera, and it's just hard to use. We had one lent to us, and right after we got it, and where is that? You know, I just had this out.
And another thing on the supernatural list that I want to mention for people who've heard these sort of things before, or like listening to testimonies, or maybe you're a Bigfoot person yourself. something I hear across the board with different supernatural occurrences is a metallic or sulfuric sort of smell or burning smell, like I've heard it described as the smell of burning or coppery metal, metallic or sulfuric smell, and just something that would burn your nostrils almost, or and mixed with garbage. Um,
Yeah,
Especially when they quote unquote disappears, seems to be when you smell it the strongest. I've heard. I've heard that a few times. The same smell that's associated with exorcisms, alien abductions, that sort of thing.
yeah, I've only smelled them a few times, and it wasn't when I saw them. Um, we sometimes we'd hear them, with an accompanying smell, but I've smelled a sulfur-like smell, and mixed with kind of like garbage and bad BO. And then also a really strong skunk smell with that
Yeah.
sulfuric smell that just
Yeah.
almost burns your nose.
That I hear a lot, and I associate that with the natural body smell though. With that, I do hear a lot.
You associate the sulfur smell with it?
No, the sort of just I've even heard rotten flesh mixed with garbage, uh, uh, excrement, or urine. That sort of smell. I just attribute it to that they don't take a bubble bath. But this
Yeah.
this other smell, a lot of people say when they're tracking it and suddenly it seems to be gone, or it surprised them. Like it was right there and they didn't know it, and then suddenly it was gone, and then this smell hits them. And
Hmm.
and I've heard that in other arenas, same thing with alien abduction and exorcism. And now, if we were talking about something that has extra dimensional properties, maybe that smells like that other dimension. That's my own little, maybe that they bring that smell back with them. Maybe it sticks to them. Um, Sulfur is also called brimstone, in case somebody out there doesn't know. Just unusual.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm still doing a study trying to understand who exactly the Amorites and the Jebusites and the Canaanites, all of them are, because I mean, everyone knows by now that there's remains of giants covering the planet. I don't know that all of these different groups were that. I'm not sure. But I do know that,
Well, that would certainly explain why the Lord wanted them exterminated, children and animals included. Now
yeah,
that doesn't sound like Jesus, and that used to confuse me until I discovered the whole Genesis 6 Nephilim sort of thing. Then I'm like, wait, the Lord could have actually been trying to protect us. So that made it make sense to me
hmm,
to reconcile that, you know. And I've heard people actually turn away from Christianity itself because they point at something like that and say, what kind of God would order, his followers to do that?
hmm,
Well, what if what he told them to do was, what if they weren't exactly people as you and I think? Um,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that takes us back to Genesis. He says that he created, man, and he created people and creatures, and they populated the planet. And then he rested. And then he says, now let's make man in our own image, and he makes Adam, he makes Adam. I don't know that there wasn't other things here that were created,
hmm.
because a lot of those times where we see beasts, a lot of times if you know go to a Strong's Concordance, sometimes it goes just to wild beasts as in animals. Sometimes it translates to other people.
Right.
And so
I
I don't know what that means. Does that mean half breeds? I don't know. I
Some
have no
people
idea.
some people speculate about what they term a pre-Adamic race. I personally don't find the basis for that, but I do know that the heavenly creatures in races were created, and there was a rebellion before. I think that this dominated the universe before biological life as we know it. That's my personal take on it. There
Hmm.
was activity. Certainly, the earth was in ruins before the Lord hovered over the waters. There
Hmm.
and something I believe happened before, and that's a whole nother 9 yards. But
Yeah, but I can get that too. I mean, I have no. Those are
yeah,
the kind of things that I have no clue. So
yeah,
I'll take all of it. I
but
won't argue you. I mean, you might be very right in it. I don't know. But Solomon went and took over these lands and put these clans to work. So and then it talks about his mining. You know, he put them to work in his mines. And you look at, you know, like Michigan and those areas, Ohio, where there's just loads of bones, you know, in the mounds and everything. You know more about the copper mines than I do in Michigan.
yeah,
But it's weird to me that I hear the how they sometimes smell like copper or things like that.
yeah.
That's weird to me because a lot of times these things come up from the ground. I mean,
But they have
I
some
don't know
mines
where.
that are a couple of places where there are mines in the same area where they're slightly different, and you can ask the locals or experts, and they a lot of times will tell you, well, one was native and they didn't use a lot of copper. They were light on the copper mining, but then the what we believe were was Solomon's mining was heavy, and they were shipping back east. But we find reason to believe that there was another mining operation going on at a different period that, well, have you ever heard about some of the Grand Canyon discoveries of the giants? But
Yeah, and the Egyptian stuff.
yes, exactly. But it's almost like a sort of proto-Egyptian or early. It's not the type of Egyptian that you or I think that's more refined. It seems a little bit more a little earlier. So I have some thoughts about that, but that could be a whole nother show. I don't want to take away from your topic here. But it all relates, doesn't it? I mean, one thing that runs right into another thing.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's one thing I wonder about is if these clans, because they were instructed to go and destroy these clans in all these lands.
Yeah.
And at one point, it says that the Israelites gave their daughters to them and took daughters from them,
Mm.
you know, so uh, they bred with whatever this was, and um,
Yeah.
that angered the creator for sure. I'm trying to find a point of reference just to not to read to your
Sure. Did you have
listeners, but just to let them know.
did you have more picture files you wanted to share with us,
I
or
do. I'm about to pull up this one of our thermal.
okay?
Um, Deuteronomy 20 is a good reference point for your listeners if they want to if they want to read about the instruction to take them out, all those ites.
Yeah.
But
That's what I call them, the ites.
the ites, yeah. And
And
oh,
they are
Solomon is
they're
they'd want
not
to go to,
just
huh?
so people know. If you look at the table of nations, these are not listed in the table of nations, and uh, I think experts like Gary Wayne and others speculate because they weren't, again, they weren't people. They were people in one sense, but not people like you and I, which is makes perfect sense to me. If you're
Yeah.
going by the biblical text, that they were mingled with giant genetics.
Second Chronicles 8 is another good study for people. So that's what I speculate. And another thing that I've wondered about is I'll show you the Hindu gods after I show you the thermal. So the thermal video that we got, let's see here.
You know, one other thing I want to throw in here real quick too is that, oh yeah, Bill Schnoblin, I was speaking with him, and he said something quite interesting about angels. Is that if you notice that even Michael didn't take on Lucifer himself, but he said, "The Lord rebuke thee." Um, you notice that how can I say it? You can't go around casting out angels or rebuking angels because they are God created them in a certain class. So he pointed out something very interesting is that because of the class that God created them in, even if they're fallen, they command a certain amount of regard out of what the Lord do. Sort of like
Authority?
it's almost that I see a similarity between how how Lucifer was handled by Michael as how King David was handled, how he handled Saul, because Saul was once anointed. So out of respect for that, David said, "Hey, I could have had you, but I'm not, out of respect for the anointing that you don't have anymore."
Hey, that's a good that's a really good tie-in. I never have thought about that.
So, but with these creatures, my point is that if everything is true, if they're actual Nephilim or hybrid, they weren't ever meant to exist at all. So it's not the same towards them. Um, and I don't want to I don't want to go too far with that because that would detract away from you. But I wanted to throw that out there, and it's worth revisiting or thinking about.
Hmm.
So, what are we looking at here? This looks pretty interesting.
Okay, so this is a thermal video of one that we got. This actually has an accompanying video. It's You're looking at heat right now, and right here across his chest, this is the ridge in the back of our yard. We have the barbed wire fence, and then there's about 130 feet of forest, and then our yard dips down really steep to this valley, and the valley is completely enrobed by the Chehalis River.
Mm,
So they go on this ridge a lot. They watch us a lot from this ridge, and it kind of goes around to the area like this where the one was standing during the day. And
right.
so right here, if you draw a line straight across, this is where the ridge was. And this right here, there's bushes right here. Now this across his chest, there's a branch in the daylight film. I'll have to pull that up, but there's a branch that lays across the ground right
Mhm.
here.
It's kind of partially hidden behind you, just the bottom part of it. Could you maybe, is it possible to zoom it out a little bit and then move it up towards the first two-thirds of the screen? It's a little bit hidden behind you, but we can see like two-thirds of it above where your head is.
I wonder why. I have it way
Oh.
up here.
You and I are like at the bottom of the screen in two little boxes like the Brady Bunch next to each other. So, hey Sarah, how you going? How you doing there?
I don't I don't know if I can do anything about that. It
Just
shows that it's showing
yeah.
on my
Or you
screen.
can move it over to the to the left there and maybe zoom it out just one little little tap, and it should be able to. We should be able to see it a little more clearly.
Well, when I move, both of them move with it.
Oh, okay. Well, no big deal then.
Let me turn it off and then on. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, there's that. Now let's try this again. How's that?
Well, it's the same. I mean, if you can't zoom out on it, don't worry about it. I don't want to get you hung up
Well,
on.
where's it hidden?
There you go. There you go.
Is that better?
Um, yeah, but you can't move it. It's centered. You can't move it off to the left there where your arrow is, can you?
It won't let me.
Okay, don't worry about it. Well, yeah. Actually, now we can see most of it. It's just over your head. Yep. There you go. That's actually good right there.
Okay. Sorry, I can't tell on my
Yeah.
screen. So, you're looking at a branch right here that goes across his chest. And again, he's peeking over the hillside. We found footprints and we cast footprints. And that were about 16.5 inches. You can see eye sockets clearly, and
Yeah.
look at where this cuts in right here, his cheeks.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
right
His head's
here
kind of
is
tilted forward a little bit,
um
sort of like I am. That's how I'm sort of seeing it.
I don't know about that. They just don't really have necks. So you're looking at a
Yeah.
massive muscle right here on his shoulders.
So
Massive.
you've never seen them look up and down. They sort of like lean.
Oh, hunched over?
Maybe that's why
Yeah,
they
kind of.
seem to
And then their
rock because
neck kind of
they don't
sticks
have that.
out.
Every time I see them, or I think I see footage of them, they seem to have this rocking action, and maybe that's why because they don't have a good mobile neck.
Yeah, they turn like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Yeah. And then you could see the clavicle bone almost right here. And then
Right.
his pecs and this. But this is what gets me. And I know it's very blurry and everything. Nothing that we can do about that.
Sure.
The sagittal crest right there. Do you see this?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It looks like a crest to me.
Yeah. So this one was also measured at about 7 feet 6 inches. What's crazy about this is a 4 foot long shoulder span. 4 feet. That's
Again,
huge.
this is off of a thermal image. If people are wondering why it looks a little crazy, correct?
Yeah, again, it's reading heat. So
Yeah.
if you Google thermal images, you'll get a better
Right.
idea
Right.
of this. Um, and
So otherwise, you would not have seen this at all. You're just picking up this heat signature, this
he was
signal marker.
tapping. He was tapping. See, back to Francisco, the cow farmer. He leases out this valley about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months out of the year because it'll flood down there. So he usually has them out by mid-September. Um,
You might want to close that out. It's gone kind of crazy.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. You can come back to normal screen if you're done with the pictures, unless you got more.
I do have a coyote, but I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
Um, half of the cow herd was taken earlier that day. And I don't know if you've ever heard cows that get
Half.
taken from the other herd, but they go nuts. They go absolutely nuts. They're very group oriented. And they were just making tons of noise. I didn't even set up audio that night because it was just so obnoxious. And John was outside and they could hear tap, 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 tap on the tree. And looking through the camera, he thought he was seeing the upper portion of the Sasquatch body. He was whistling at it and it wasn't moving. And he thought maybe that's what it was, but didn't get too excited about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the creature was doing. I don't know if he was trying to get John's attention. Like, hey, look at these cows. I have no idea. But the cows just walking right in front of him. And usually when there's a new herd of cows here, they, uh, for maybe a while, maybe a couple weeks, you can hear that they're um, maybe uncomfortable, maybe totally freaked out. I don't know. But after a while, that stops. And there are stories, even on this reservation, of them killing cattle. So they're
Yeah,
not exempt from that. But for whatever reason, the group here, they don't kill the cattle. Um,
I've heard them. I heard tell of them supposedly swinging an entire full-grown hog into a tree to kill it.
oh, that wouldn't surprise me. The we found some deer and elk bones, lots of coyote.
And they will actually
Uh,
string up the coyote. Uh,
yeah, the coyote's weird. The only way I can explain that is a sacrifice. It's weird
yeah.
because they always do it when someone's outside, sometimes during the day, and you'll hear this coyote for 10 to 20 seconds just make a sound that at first we didn't know what animal it was, but we knew something was being tortured.
Mm.
And then, same story, we find clumps of hair, never a drop of blood, never, not once. And the first coyote we found was hanging from a tree with its tail wrapped. And
Yeah.
the weird thing about it is, I always say he because I think it's that same one. We'll hear the other, ones in the distance. We found different size footprints, but I feel like he's the creep, he's the watcher,
Yeah.
But he puts them on our side of the property, like just past the fence, almost like it's a gift or something weird. I have a picture of one of the coyotes, and it's just a pelt. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Um,
So this is its tail, and it's wrapped around a branch, and this is just its pelt hanging there. No blood or anything, but we heard this one die. Um,
mm.
Other times,
Wow.
yeah,
Man.
it's really weird. Other times, I'll find the piles of hair, and the innards are just in a pile, but it's like the blood's been drained from them. There'll just be innards there,
Yeah. Would you
and
would you
nothing will
would you
eat it.
would you be surprised to know that in my research, again with Bill Schnoblin, recently talking to him, he talked about how the Bible says there's life in the blood. We are not to touch it. If an animal is killed without draining the blood, we're not to eat that. Um, he was saying it. Well, it's no secret that in a lot of ritual things that they believe that it's a transference of power, maybe even an essence of that being. So would you be surprised to know that in the ancient texts it tells us that actual what we consider vampirism today, drinking of the blood, was started by the giants. Um, they started this practice and they did it.
The Amorite
They started.
translates blood drinker.
It was a practice of the giants. Now, I mean, there are other Nephilim that are not actual giants. That's not quite what that's about. There's all types of variations, but this practice carried down through the ages. But this is where it came from. Why did they do this? And I definitely think he was just saying that there's a supernatural element to it, and that's why it's forbidden. And he says, I've heard this asserted elsewhere also, that is part of the secret to how the angels were able to mate with human women because they supposedly drank human blood. Then they were able to be with the women. I've heard different theories as to how they did that, but I'm going to bring it back in. It's just kind of related, I thought. But the first occurrence of blood drinking, that practice was taught, and it proliferated never mind, it spread here on Earth through the giants.
That doesn't surprise me. It's not the Amorites, it's the Amalekites. I'm looking online,
Yeah.
and that translates to vampire demons.
Yes. There is
Weird.
one family of the ites that is associated with vampirism, at least by name. By name.
Another thing I've speculated, and this one might be way out there, but you know how the Bible references Yasher, the book of Yasher, twice, I believe. It says, "Is it not
Yes.
written in the book of Yasher?"
Yes.
Well, let's see. There's a chapter in there, and it's talking about the rise and fall of Babylon in great detail. And, you know, your listeners can take it for what it is. I know it's not in the Bible, but it's an interesting book. So he's talking about, they're talking about the punishment, and they're watching the people, and these people here, this is chapter 9 of Yasher, verse 26. And all these people and the families divided themselves into 3 parts. And the first said, "We will ascend into heaven and fight against him." The second said, "We will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them." And the third part said, "We will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears." And God knew all their works and their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And then it goes on, and he decides that, you know, they keep building this tower, and he says he's going to destroy them. Now it goes down to verse 35. This is how he decides to handle the 3 groups of people. Verse 35 from chapter 9 of Yasher. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them. The one man through the hand of his neighbor, and the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him." Then the Lord scattered them through the earth. So when I think of that, I don't know how figurative that is. I have no clue. But I find it odd that Hinduism has been around for such a long time. And the 2, I guess you could say, hybrid gods, human-animal gods of Hinduism, one is an ape god, one is an elephant god. And I'll show I'll pull up pictures of them. But Hinduism has been around forever. And if there was this synchronicity or this world religion, you know, where everything was accepted, you know, and everything was correct, I just don't doubt that Hinduism wasn't part of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I know of a couple of spots where there are giant footprints that remain, that people worship at and leave offerings to this very day. I'll share some of those pictures with you sometime.
can you see him?
Yeah.
That's Hanuman. This is the monkey human god, and he has an interesting story. His mother and father were cursed, and she had him by the god. I forgot what god it was. I want to say Brahma or whatever gave her him in order to break the curse. They were like monkey people.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
There's the tale of the Monkey King in China, who I've heard variations that he traveled. The Monkey King traveled to India, and this could be the same deity.
I wouldn't be surprised. This is Ganesha. This is the elephant human god. And his dad is Shiva.
Yeah.
And Shiva cut off his head when he came home because he didn't know that his wife had a baby.
Ooh, yeah.
And the boy flipped him attitude. And so then he felt bad, and he went and found a head and put it back on. So that reminds me of the Darrow creature, which I don't know a lot about, but I do know of people that have seen it. and they seem
Yeah.
to party with Sasquatch, like just do the underground grunt work, if you will.
Have you talked to Brent Sawin about this and maybe showed him this? I'd like to get his opinion, see if he's seen this or what he thinks of it.
No, I would love to hear his opinion. I haven't talked to him, but I've listened to him talk about this, and I find it fascinating that a lot of the things he says about them, uh, like kind of how they do
Yeah,
the grunt work in this hollow earth, this cave system, whatever it is,
yeah,
it sounds like
exactly.
Sasquatch.
Brenton, I'm sorry, I forgot. Haven't talked.
Brenton.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in quite a
Brenton's,
long
yeah,
time.
Brenton, that's right. So that's that.
Yeah, you're
Oh, the
spot on.
DNA. I'll tell you about the DNA now.
Oh yeah.
So the DNA, I don't know how we got off track from that, but you and I tend to
Well,
do
there's
that.
a lot of different directions to explore.
Yeah. Melba Ketchum had done her study and brought out the results. And the results showed that the mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA, the mother's side,
Right.
is 100% human. The father's side matches nothing in the genome bank. Nothing. And furthermore, it has markers in the blood, meaning it's showing genetic engineering, manipulation of sorts.
Something foreign to either one or like a third source. I've seen that a lot. Part
Well,
human,
this is what
part something else unidentifiable, and sometimes part animal.
the one I read, it didn't show animal, but some of them
Yeah.
might. There's different variations of them. These samples were collected from all over. Now, someone did a study after her and verified what she said.
Yeah.
The samples that this forensic lab had, I believe there's 25 of them that they had. And they collected those uh, from North America. Now, what they did with those is they're the ones that brought up the marker thing. And this
Mm.
is a science-minded group that said the markers in the blood show a genetic manipulation almost as if it was created in a lab. That's what they said. Now, they actually traced the mother's side of these Sasquatch samples. Only one of them went to an Indian tribe First Nations tribe in Canada. All the rest of them went back to the Middle East area, Africa, that area. All the
Yeah.
mother's side there. But all the samples were collected here. So I found that really interesting. One of them matched
Very
very closely
interesting.
to a African tribe, you know. So, but there's stories of them taking women and I don't even like talking about this, but impregnating them and then taking the baby after she gives birth and then bringing the woman back to her village. And that's not just a story that has been heard once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just really weird.
I hear that a lot too.
It's
I don't
uncomfortable
I don't
talking
know how
about.
they would nurse it or whatever without the mother or it. I don't know, but I hear that quite a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, I would fear for if someone disappeared like that. I would fear for their life, especially if I knew that sort of thing was going on. But on the other hand, I think sometimes, well, we don't really abuse our farm animals. We take good care of them. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe it doesn't seem like it, but maybe we serve some sort of purpose for them that we don't even understand. They like creeping around. It seems like they like creeping around. You've had them creep around outside your house before, no?
They do. That's what they do. They just like watch people. And so many people think that they're like, you'll find them in the middle of nowhere, but
Yeah.
no, you'll find them in the middle of nowhere and you'll find them on the outskirts of society. Always. Always on Indian land too. Those are the most loaded
Yeah.
spots. I mean, you have someone talking about Sasquatch activity. Hey, I live here. I'll get emails. I live here. Um,
I hear of all types
and
of
sorry to any of
activity.
you listening that send me emails. I'm so bad at that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
have 3 kids. And it's hard for me to respond all the time.
I'm sure they
But
understand.
people
Here's your
will
chance to
say,
talk
hey,
to
I'm from here,
everybody.
and you can always pinpoint Indian land within close proximity.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just creeps. They just watch and oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. That one story of the 2 boys, the boys who had the Sasquatch take them onto that craft.
Oh, yeah. That story you
I'll
were
pull
telling me
that up
about.
real quick. Yeah, that's a weird one, huh? Here we go.
So I don't know the details in full, but this is something we can look into online. You have a
Yeah, this is here, I'll go ahead and screen share this. You see it?
yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm on this paranormalistics.blogspot.com and it's right here. A case from 1969 is even more remarkable. It describes an encounter between 2 boys and a huge Bigfoot-like creature. According to the tale, the creature picked the boys up, brought them inside the UFO, and the boys saw the Bigfoot sit in a chair while inside the UFO and saw a device with wires placed on his head.
Yeah. Now, I believe I shared with you earlier when I was about 12 years old. I believed in everything or the possibility of it, from UFOs to Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster. It all fascinated me. But all in one day, I decided I didn't believe in any of it because I've read a story like this that crossed UFOs and Bigfoot. And I'm like, you know what? I can believe one, I can believe the other, but both together, this is preposterous. I'm 12 years old, but I ain't stupid. So I just stopped believing in all of it until the past several years when I did a little research and it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a little deeper thing going on here.
Isn't that funny? And I wonder if that's part of the whole thing. Like you're raised seeing these Bigfoots the Bigfoot on cartoons, the Bigfoot in
Yeah.
movies. You can't tie them with that. This to me
Right.
sounds ridiculous,
Right.
but I know that these people aren't making this up. But it sounds like a cartoon. It sounds like a stupid movie.
Right.
But this is real. This is what people are experiencing. I've heard of a whole tribe that saw one come out of a UFO. A whole
Really.
tribe. Listen to this. Uh, A case from Clearwater, Colorado in 1977 tells of a witness who observed 2 beings near a UFO who could apparently control a Bigfoot through the use of a black box device, which they warned the witness not to touch.
Mm. I've heard
In
similar stuff. Yeah.
77, Steve Bismarck from Snohomish, Washington, said he saw a dark-haired Bigfoot lowered from a large disc that was hovering over the trees near his rural home. Now, I have a friend that he's actually a well-known Bigfoot researcher, and he doesn't care to talk about this publicly. But him and his research partner saw a bright flash of light, which we've seen, like almost like someone is in the camera or in the woods with a professional camera taking a picture.
Yeah.
we saw, he saw that, and then his buddy saw a white, he described it as a ball or an orb, and then they saw a Bigfoot.
Wow.
Yeah. And we've
Huh.
seen the flashing, we've seen loads of the balls traveling, going, whipping through trees. Almost,
Yeah.
almost like it's a something that can see you. It's weird. Because as soon as you look, it goes away. It darts off.
Yeah.
But we've
There's
had things charge us. There will be a flash of light, just, like a flash of a camera. It was super bright.
yeah.
We had, it was John and I, and then our research buddy named Ed Brown. And we saw that flash, and then something charged us within feet of us. Heavy feet running towards us. I mean, just within a few feet. And it seemed like it was
Something came running at, but
less than a second.
you couldn't see
Yeah,
any, you couldn't see anything?
there was nothing there. It seemed like less than a second, but it was
Wow.
probably a second or two. Ed and I both had our flashlights on. John had his gun pointed. Just that quick of a reaction. Nothing was there. Right in front of us, heavy footed charging
Well, do
towards
you
us.
know, I've heard people who are not exactly proponents of the supernatural Bigfoot, but they're just talking about encounters that they had. But then they say something similar, like where there might be multiple number. I'm sure you've heard these stories. You listen to more than I do. One in particular sticks out in my mind. Can't remember who exactly, give you a name or anything, but they were by a cliffside, and they were kind of caught by surprise in their vehicle. They saw one in the distance, and it was throwing rocks or something. Next thing you know, they hear one right beside them, and even like its footsteps are so hard, they're saying it's actually shaking them, and it's frightening, but they don't see anything, and it's right there by them, but they can't see a thing. I've kind of heard that,
Wow.
um, and so they had no. I didn't hear them talking about anything biblical or anything like this, or anything, any hint that they thought it had a supernatural deal with it, but they just couldn't explain why that happened, what the heck was going on. But they swear
Hmm.
up and down this is what happened. So that's why I believe them.
Yeah. And why not?
If you
You know,
want to
I,
make
I
up
don't,
something, why would you throw that bit in? That's just going to
why
throw
would
off
you want to
everything.
sound crazy?
Right.
Uh, this isn't this isn't something that everyone wants to, talk about. I can't walk up to anyone and go, "Hey, I saw this Bigfoot disappear yesterday. It was pretty weird." That
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to talk about stuff like
Obviously,
that.
you're making
You know?
tons of money off of this, and you got this 3 volume book coming out and everything. So I'm just kidding. I mean, for people
Yeah.
who don't
Yeah.
get it, I'm being sarcastic. There's no reason for you to do this.
There's no reason for anyone. And even if I know a few people that have, written books off their
Yeah. By the way,
experience,
you could write a
think,
book. I do, of course. Just
yeah, but
not making light of that.
it still puts you in a different section of people's minds
Yeah.
once you start talking about stuff like this. And I could care less, but
I will buy your book though, and I want it autographed.
oh, I would never write a book. I have 3 kids. If I wrote a book, it would have kids' colorings all over it, I'm sure. But and I don't know enough. I mean, I'm not equipped to say what is definitive and what isn't. I just know that these things there's something
Don't you know you are a
that I
walking
don't
you
like.
you are a walking story. Just your whole experience, going in,
Yeah.
coming into it, just how it evolved for you, where you what it how it's affected you, and how the Lord has used it to shape you. Uh, that that's yeah, that's book worthy, and that's actually that's sharpening worthy. That's why you're here.
You know what? And I wouldn't take any of it back. I felt I felt really I felt I just felt really awful for a little while for obsessing over the subject and wanting to devote all my time to it.
Right.
But the things that I know now are because of this subject, because I had no idea about any of this stuff. And it's just the path that led me here. And now, because of, not because of this subject, but because this subject started me, now I'm so much further down this road and I see things completely different.
Can I ask you this?
So
This
I'm
might be
thankful for it.
this might be a strange question to some, but I think you'll get it. Would you say that this bizarre stuff, by most people's term, would you say that this in any way brought you closer to the Lord or made you more aware of the spiritual side of reality, existence? Basically, did God use this for you to shape
Oh,
you in
of
some way?
course.
Yeah.
Of course. Um, at first, just the spiritual stuff. And then I got an understanding of I mean, as much as we possibly can get an understanding of like quantum physics and things
Yeah.
like that, even though I have no clue what any of it means or how it works. I was able to at least somewhat understand those things and really search in scripture. But now the stuff that I study in scripture has nothing to do with Sasquatch necessarily, even though it still looms in the background somewhere. Now, especially in the last 2 weeks, everything has changed for me. I've talked to you a little about some stuff that I've realized, recently, and that stuff just, I can't believe how much control he has. It says that the wisdom of Yahweh is fear. And if you can fear him, truly fear him and understand how much control he has over everything. I
Yeah.
mean, everything.
That's a
It's
good point.
terrifying.
It's the
It's
Lord we should be in fear of, not
it's terrifying.
anything else, and that's the beginning of wisdom.
I can't even explain to you. I'll have to share some stuff with you privately, but
Absolutely.
it's terrifying when you get to that point. And that is when he starts showing you the unsearchable things. That's when, because then you go, oh man, I mean, everything. It's just like unbelievable to me. And sometimes it's very overwhelming and it's very sorrowful and it's very lonely, but it's the truth. And it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, I can't even explain it, especially over the last
Yeah.
few weeks and even more so over the last few days. It's just the
Yeah.
control he has over everything, even over these creatures, over
Yeah.
everything. He says it. He wrote the history books. Or not the history books, he wrote the history book. And on time, to the day, he it all aligns. It's just amazing.
Amen.
So yeah, this did put me there, even though I,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. It really is.
And that whole I'm glad that he accepts. I had someone tell me, well, you shouldn't come to the Lord out of fear, because he wants you to just love him. I'm like, well, I'm glad he accepted my fear, but he turned it into love. But it's more of now it's a fear of being apart from him. But he certainly didn't turn me away just because I came to him out of fear. And even Paul said, I speak to you now in fear and trembling, and I'm sure that's out of his majesty and his grandness. One glimpse of him, and everything else is kind of overshadowed. The boogeyman isn't quite so spooky anymore.
That's exactly it. That's my point. And I can show you. There's your, yeah. This is the foundation of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and that's true.
And knowledge of the Holy One, that's Jesus. Wow. Knowledge of the Holy One is understanding.
And that's hard. Those things are hard to. That's hard to have. When he says that, his people have to have eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart to receive. That's hard because he reveals the Son reveals the Father,
Yeah.
and it says that he draws people. And
No
I think
wonder
that you got to
yeah.
have that open heart. You got to go, okay, show me these things, and I will. If it swaps my entire paradigm in a day, I'll do it. I'll accept it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it takes, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
You gotta
And I
want
finally
the
got
truth
to
that
that
bad.
point. I got to that point where I was willing, so willing, no matter what. And that makes a big difference. So I
Yeah,
encourage
it
people
does.
to get to that point before anything
Yeah.
else, because then you just see things
Yeah.
differently.
Some people express some difficulty in seeing God in their day or finding God or getting an answer to their prayer, and I just ask that person, like hypothetically, or not something they have to answer to me, but I ask them, how serious are you about getting an answer to what is truth? Finding out what is the truth to all of this. If you're serious, I mean that's how it unfolded for me. When I was really serious, he's like, "Oh, I've been right here all along." I guess in my mind, I read the Bible as a kid, and in somewhere I felt like I had accomplished something, so I knew it. I knew the Bible. Well, if I feel like I know it, then maybe he's like, "Well, I guess you know everything, so there's nothing I need to show you then." Until I felt like, "Well, wait a minute, Lord. What else do I need to know?"
Hmm. Make yourself unwise so that you can become wise.
Yeah, yeah,
Go to him like a child. I don't know anything, and I've read the Bible maybe 10 times in my life. I don't know
mm,
how many times, maybe a few more, I don't know. But I'm reading the Bible for the first time now because I'm dividing scripture. I've gotten a concordance, and I'm seeing what is a metaphor and what isn't, and makes a
yeah,
big difference. And that's what we're told to do. You got to divide it.
yeah,
I remember one time I had when I used to go to church, I had a pastor say, encourage everyone to read their Bible in a year. So everyone kind of like got on board with this like speed reading, and I don't even remember what I got out of it that year. I don't remember. And I I wish people wouldn't do that, because you miss everything. You don't take in everything. You got to
yeah,
spend
yeah,
time. You can divide one chapter and get more out of that chapter and more understanding by doing that than you have reading it 10 times fast in your life.
yeah,
It's pretty amazing. And then what happens is, once you do that and you really get an understanding of that, when you read something else,
yeah.
you go, wait a minute, but this is from Deuteronomy. Wait a minute, Messiah's given a metaphor for something in Proverbs. Like
Yeah.
that's that's what's cool about it, because you have a metaphor and a physical, with everything, but you don't know who's saying what part. It's pretty amazing.
That
That
that's
book is
what
just
blows.
nuts.
That's Jesus. That he's the Word, and that's what. Now that I know him more. Now he's just not a historical figure or somebody I believe in. He's someone that I have a relationship with. And I go back and look in scripture and I see him speak to a mass of people, you can see people all hear the same word, but he's speaking to each one of them individually, and they receive exactly what it's as though he's saying it right at them towards what they're dealing with, but yet it's the same word as this guy is hearing, and the same word that this guy just totally ignored and walked away. I mean,
You know what I realized about that? Pay pay close attention to his wording next time when you're reading some of the stuff
yeah.
he says, because you have audio people, you have visual people, and then you have, is it called kinesthetic, the people, sight,
Oh
sound, and
yeah.
touch.
Yeah, you were sharing something really amazing with me. Go ahead. I want to hear
He
this
he
again.
words he words it like that. He'll go
Yeah.
and he'll say something. He'll say, "See this, my people. See this something," and then you read it again, you're like, why did he just repeat that? But he's getting another group of people. He says, now hear this, my people. And he'll explain it so that
Yeah.
those people understand. And then he'll, just go, he does that
Yeah.
so that it touches all these different sets of brains, the different ways people work.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It,
You know what we
I
were
know this
saying?
is a little off topic, but I remember
Sure.
you and I had talked about the Egyptian gods.
Yeah.
And um, that was something that I realized pretty recently too, is because I read up a lot on Egyptian mythology, and I never understood. There's a reason for everything in the word, and I never understood why he kept hardening the Pharaoh's heart. And by hardening it, that should translate to strengthen it in the way it was already going. He already had a hard heart. It's not like he,
Right.
did the guy wrong, but I didn't understand why he would harden the Pharaoh's heart, then soften it, let him go, and then no, they're not going, over and over. And there's so much depth there, because what he's doing, because each time there's Egyptians leaving and gathering, and that's why there's such a large mixed multitude going out, because with every plague he's mocking one of their gods, one of their deities, with every plague. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Just so many depths and layers and
You're
everything that we
exactly
can
right.
see if we just stop and
Yeah.
do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think it's
And
important.
then we kind of I remember we talked too how I mentioned if you look in Revelation those same plagues there's going to be like a mega version of that was just that was just the pre-show. This is the showstopper. Here it's a mega version of the same plagues on the whole earth, uh, called down by these two prophets. But you know, so we're hearing things. You see about the kings that are alive at the time that are on earth, and if you know in ancient history, and you know about Atlantis, you have the nine gods of Atlantis, and I'm like. You know,
10. I think there's 10 kingdoms.
well, consider, yeah, if you count Poseidon at Atlantis, who is the leader, with
Oh, but it was divided up into 9?
nine surrounding kingdoms and kings. So if you kind of put the Antichrist in that role, it fits. But so I'm just my point is that you hear nowadays, the return of the gods. So the return of the gods. It fits this whole scenario that you're talking about. Do you see what I'm saying? It just it just rolls right into that. So Apollo Abaddon himself rising from the pit. Um, I don't know. I don't want to
I
cross. No,
don't, I
we're
see
cross.
that
We're
one
going
gets
over
me,
into
because he
eschatology
says
now.
that
But
He says, Messiah says he has the keys to death and Hades.
yeah.
And then it says that he will be judgment, he will be our curse. And so,
Well, this is the abyss that he rises from. But we're crossing over into eschatology on this one, which is cool. We're gonna have to do a separate episode.
oh yeah,
But we could do
but
that.
that I don't know about that. I think that one's going to be pretty
At
freaky
one day, I mean, I
because,
looked and I'm like, wait a minute, that is actually Apollo. Apollyon is Apollo,
but
Lucifer, or
that's destruction though.
representation. Hmm.
But that's destruction, and that's what Messiah says. He's judgment.
Yeah, he's
I
the.
think that it might be him wiping out, cleansing the earth.
Oh, I take it quite literal. If it unless it says, and this is what that means, or gives an interpretation, I've learned to just let it say what it says and just take it if
Oh,
it.
but Revelation, the whole book of
Yeah.
Revelation, remember it's in vision. So the whole thing is very metaphorical. If it's in vision, oh, it's very metaphorical.
Well, I don't want to get off into that subject because
Yeah, yeah, we don't have
you've
to do
got
that.
classes of people who will disagree and agree. So
Mhm.
um, but it's definitely it says that anybody who reads that book, let them be
Yeah,
blessed.
blessed.
A lot of people are afraid to even touch it because it's so but there's a promise. If you look right at the beginning, it says, that the reader of it is supposed to be blessed. And it's a comfort. We're supposed to comfort ourselves with the blessing that
People
comes
are
with that.
scared to read it.
That sounds like a notion you've never heard before. Most people, if you ask who've never
Because
read it,
I don't think
they'll
that
tell
you
you
can
why.
fully understand it. I
They'll
don't
say
know
it's
what.
frightening. It's too scary.
Oh, really?
Oh, I've heard that
I
so
can't,
many
I
times
guess
in
I
my life.
can't be that scared if I don't quite understand it. I get a lot of it now, and yes,
Yeah.
it's very terrifying, but I keep reading it until I can get,
Yeah.
more understanding out of it. I just don't understand a lot of it. I don't know who's who. I don't know who's doing what. I don't know who's pulling the strings here, you
Yeah.
know?
I do know that's a whole nother thing, but I'm writing a book. There's so many elements that it runs from
You're
the
writing a book on it?
not on that, but yes, there's an element from the Garden of Eden all the way to Revelation that is like the central. It runs threads that run straight through the Bible that
Ye shall be gods?
I've never. It's connected with that, yes, but there's so much more. I can't really divulge it because
Oh, come on.
I'd be giving away. It's not that I'm trying to do anything but protect it, but until it's done and copyrighted, I don't want somebody else saying, "Oh, there, let me write that down." Um, but I really feel like the Lord has given it to me. But I'm not saying I know everything, but He's shown me something so wonderful. I'm like, Lord, this is wow. I feel so not worthy to have this. But yeah, if He's gonna, I'm just gonna write it and put it out there and see how it's received. But
Oh, that's cool. I'm excited.
it's I think the closer we get towards the end, things are just going to start being uncovered, unveiled, and it'll be easier to see, um, some certain things that seem mysterious. Even like the two witnesses laying in the street, but yet the entire world celebrates because these guys are dead and give gifts to one another. How can the whole world look on? Now, see, that's nothing for you and I to. No, they're CNN. But like 200 years ago, somebody would have read that and been like, eh, I don't know, magic? I don't know. How can the world look on? Things just naturally sort of, what does it say? That man will run to and fro in the earth and knowledge will be increased. I don't think it's just knowledge of bad things. I think his knowledge of the Lord will be
Hmm.
increased.
Well, look at this. I mean, I can sit in front of my computer and I can look at 5 translations of the word, and I can
Ooh,
go to a concordance, Greek and Hebrew concordance, and get a good understanding. Revelation, is going to be after Jeremiah, that's going to be my next tackle. So I'll probably get a better understanding when I do that, especially the Abaddon thing. But you couldn't do that even maybe 10 years ago. I don't know that I could have done that. You know?
Yeah. And we can sit here across the country or around the world from one another. We can sit here and have a conversation, and coffee while we do it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's an amazing, it's a scary age we live in, but it's also an amazing age if you just, what does Jesus say? If your eye is full of light, everything you see isn't bad. It connected with what we were saying earlier before we got off track. I felt like the Lord gave me something. What he said to those standing around at that time when we were talking about your attitude, like if you feel like you know everything or you have everything already, how can you give somebody who feels who's got an armful already? How are you going to give them something you have until they, open their arms up? So I remember him speaking to people, saying, I've come to heal the sick, you know, um, you know, uh, he was speaking to a certain group of people, and he said, I've come to give sight to the blind. And he said, the people he was speaking to, though, but because you say we see, your blindness remains. And that just was coming to me while you were talking. Just our attitude. I don't know.
Self-sovereignty.
Yeah, he's a gentleman. He's not gonna force something on you. If you feel like you've got what you need, you're good without him. Okay, it might break his heart, but he's not gonna let you know. He's
Hmm.
not even gonna let you know that you're breaking his heart all the way to hell if that's where you want to go. But I guess that is a good point for us to go to. I would definitely I would definitely say none of this would even matter without the Lord. And that's the whole point to me is not looking at things for the sake of the supernatural or whatever, but the more of these things that we see of earth. He said, what people wanted Jesus to tell them about heaven. He's like, but you don't believe what I'm telling you about what's here, but yet you're asking me about heaven.
Hmm.
And it's true. There's so much here already. Oh my gosh. Stuff that isn't even supposed to be here, but by his sovereign will, he's allowed it, and some of us don't even have a clue. So I guess what I'm saying is the more I learn, the more I see I don't know. It keeps me humble. And like you said, it can be a little scary sometimes and stuff like that, but it's always good to run to Daddy. He throws his arms around you, and that's what makes a fellowship like with you and our other brothers and sisters out there more vibrant, and it's meaningful because we have stuff to share. We know how we feel. I can empathize with some of the things you say, and oh my gosh, there was that video. I'm going to show it. That you shared where you were saying that you weren't even hip to the supernatural side of Bigfoot yet, but you were hearing the sound and you turned around and the look on your face was absolutely, I know that look because I've been there a long time ago of just like confusion and terror.
Because they do that a lot when they're,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of tree knocking or rock clacking.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old metal building over there on what we call their side. And it's a quarter mile away from here to the river, and it's just a valley between us. When we go over there, they do that a lot. They'll start banging
Yeah.
on that. And it's very unnerving because they're mad. They're real mad.
Okay.